Hello. So before I get into my first writing session for the week on book 2 of my Transgender Diva series, I thought it was probably necessary to tell you a little bit more about the story. So the first story in the series is titled Unmasked, and all of these I feel like will be able to be read by themselves. So they'll be standalone, but they'll also be a part of this series. So in the first book, it was kind of like I guess you could say a come to Jesus moment for the main character, because she was basically living every woman's dream. She was at the height of her career as a fashion designer. She had met the man of her dreams, and on her wedding day, it comes out to the entire world that she's trans, which now, honestly, it wouldn't be that big of a deal for something like that to happen because trans people are everywhere. But back in the time when I wrote it, it was very like controversial for people to be trans, and in some ways it still is, especially given our current government. So I wrote that story and it came to me through song. I remember very vividly listening to one particular song in particular and hearing and seeing a wedding day. And that's how the entire story of Unmasked started. And and I think that the reason why the story was so fun to write is because there was a mystery element to it, and there was also like I felt like the main character, Simone, she was kind of running away from this life that she felt was like in her past, and she had never really faced all the things that she had gone through to get to who she was. And so that story was very special to me because it kind of helped me to come to grips with my own journey as a trans woman and what it meant to be trans for me personally. And so the second story in this series is very different because this character, Lainey Dexter, she's way more gritty and way more street, and she's actually a preacher's kid. And she finds herself out in LA doing sex work, being involved in the sex culture in LA. And then all of a sudden she decides that she wants to leave all of that behind to pursue a music career. Well, of course, it can't be that simple because Lainey also has all of this stuff in her past that has made her the person that she is. And so in each of these stories, I think what I love to do is go have a combination of what is going on in the present, but also how it ties each character to their past. And then, even more than that, how it's going to help them to move forward into their future. So with Lainey in the first two chapters, so in the first chapter, we're introduced to Lainey and we realize that she is sitting in the back of a church where her mother is basically the lead singer of the choir, and she has never introduced herself to her mom. And it's been 5 years that she's been coming to this church and she has never introduced herself to her mom. And then the other part of it is that one of her friends has just mysteriously disappeared. And they have a system where they're supposed to check in with each other, because in sex work, why wouldn't you have like a buddy system where you check in with someone to let them know that you're okay? So that chapter pretty much closes with us figuring out where Lainey is at this point in her life. And then the second chapter takes us back to a very pivotal moment in Lainey's life where she is first introduced as a where they first realized that she can sing, which is back in her church days before she transitioned or anything. And at that point, her dead name is Nate. And she's about 6 years old. And she and her sister Stacy concoct this whole plan that instead of Stacy singing because Stacy isn't feeling well, that Nate is going to go on in her place. And so he does, and he surprises the whole church, including their mother. And from Lainey's recollection, her mother is angry about this switch. But what we are going to find out later is that Lainey's memory of what actually happened and what actually happened during these kind of like flashbacks are going to be kind of off. She's basically an unreliable narrator. And so and it helps to in that her being an unreliable narrator is what helps me to weave in the rest of the story. So in the second chapter, that's basically what that is about. So last week, what I did was I wanted to edit more than 2 chapters, but I only got through the 2 chapters. And so I feel like I might stay at that same pace this week, or I might get a little more done. I'm not really sure, but we're going to try to get as much done as we can because, like I said, my goal still is to begin an alpha read at the end of this month where I will pass it off to my alpha reader and I will have them give me some feedback on what they think about the story. So, I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit more about what Unmasked was about, which I kind of feel like I really didn't do a very good job of, but then also talk about what the story of Lainey Dexter is about. So, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to get to the writing and let's try to knock out at least another 2 chapters this week. So, here we go. So I woke up this morning realizing that I am exhausted, but I am also maybe suffering a little bit in my mental health. I find that when I can't bring myself to do the tasks that would normally bring me joy and bring me some satisfaction, like my writing, that my mental health must be not so good. I know that I've gone through a lot of changes over recent years, and I know that this has nothing to do with writing, but it does because maybe you are someone who doesn't suffer with the same things that I suffer with. Maybe you're someone who gets up every day and you know exactly what you need to do, you know exactly how you need to get there, and you do it. no questions asked. And I'm happy for you because trying to be a creative, trying to create things, trying to do things, and I know there is this new thing called pity marketing, and this is not that because I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to tell you about my life as a writer, my life as a creative person, my struggles, the things that are harder for me that may not be hard for someone else. Um, and the writing has been hard. It's been a struggle. But this morning I woke up and I decided that I made a decision that I'm going to continue to work because I did get a little bit done in chapter 3 this week. So I'm going to try to get more done this morning. And hopefully, when I post this video on Sunday, I will have gotten more done or at least another chapter done. But what I'm not going to apologize for is being myself and feeling things and knowing myself and not running away from the darkness when it shows up. And I'm not going to be toxically positive because because life isn't always positive. Life isn't always shiny butterflies. And I know on the internet that's what we like to see, but that's not my reality. And so that's not what I'm going to put out there for you guys to see. So, anyway, I just needed to say that because I feel like I see so many creators who struggle with things and they struggle with things privately and then they come back with this renewed sense of energy and bubbliness, and I just want to know what your secret is because today I don't feel renewed. I feel lost and confused and upset with the way that things are moving for me and the way that my mind is functioning. And I just needed to say that before I started this writing session because mental health is real. And yes, we don't have to look like what we're going through, but this is what I'm going through. This is where I am in my writing journey. So I'm going to go into this next writing session with new life, new eyes, and continue with my goal for November, which is to have something for my alpha reader to read at the end of November. So if you are struggling with your mental health, I pray for you. I hope that you can find your way out of the darkness and just find your way back to the creativity and be gentle with yourself. So let's get to the writing. Have a great and wonderful day. Bye for now. So what I've decided is, since I am in such a blue mood today, I will take this opportunity to give you some ideas about how I bring myself out of my own personal funk. Number one, and probably most important for me, is to write where I feel most comforted at the time. And right now, I know that you probably have realized by now that I write a lot in my bed when I'm not feeling 100% like myself. And so that would be my number one tip for if you are going through a period where you are trying to find your rainbow again, that find a place that comforts you to do your writing. Because being in a blue mood is no longer an excuse for me or for you, and because I'm talking to you too, to not create and to not put your best effort forward in the world. So, how did week 2 go of my pivot challenge? Um, Not well. I only got through a portion, not the full chapter of chapter 3 this week. And old me would be kind of disappointed, but I think that the lesson that I learned this week is that drafting is faster, but editing and revising should be slow. It should be slower because you're taking your time, you're figuring out the plot, you're figuring out different ways to make the story what you want the story to be. And so my lesson this week was that me going slow in the revising and editing process is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I will continue in week 3 to chip away a little bit at a time at my goal of making sure that I have something for my alpha reader to read at the end of the month. And overall, despite the challenges with my mental health this week, I feel pretty good about what I've done so far. And I feel pretty good about where the story is so far. So I'm going to end with that. I'm going to say that I hope that if you are writing a novel in November, that it is going well for you. And that, if you want to tell me what you're working on, or even, tell me some things that you want to see from me moving forward, because I feel like I never asked that, and I would really like to begin to build a community of people that we help each other. So tell me what you're working on and how it's going for you. And then also tell me if you have anything that you would like to see from me that I haven't explored already. So anyway, I hope everyone had a great week, and I will see you next week with a new video. Have a great rest of the evening and have a great week next week. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.